Greetings all, and welcome to another session here of Tuzi Talks. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion of curriculum testing and assessment. We're going to be talking about adopting or adapting an existing course book into the curriculum that you may be using. It's an important chapter. Oh, and by the way, just to let you know, this is all based off of Nation McAllister's textbook, Language Curriculum Design. It's right over there. And so you want to make sure that you want to take a look at that book if you're more interested in the information that I'm going to be providing. Back to our topic of adapting a textbook. Personally speaking, I'm not a lover of ESL textbooks, primarily because they do not encompass all of the objectives of a particular program. They're designed more generically or they're designed more specifically, but they're definitely not designed for my program, unless, of course, I write the books. Typically what people do is they'll try to adapt a book that closely resembles the program they're using or use multiple programs, but it's never going to be foolproof. The other thing you should always remember is that you are the teacher. You are the program developer, not the textbook. You don't follow it. It follows you. And if there are parts that don't fit into your course, don't use it. If there are parts that need extra help, add to it. So remember that even though you're going to be adopting or adapting a textbook, it is not the boss. The curriculum is the boss. The curriculum developer is the boss. Obviously, it's going to be tweaked as we go along, but we want to make sure that the books we're using, even though we have to use them or we decide to adopt them, they are not the end-all and be-all. The curriculum is. And so we're going to be adding or modifying we're going to be adding or modifying materials associated with the textbook so that all of the objectives in the curriculum are met. The same thing would go for assessment. So we're going to be talking about adopting or adapting a book. We'll look at a course book, we'll look at some teacher and course materials, and we're going to actually talk about evaluating a course book. What I find so very interesting about what we're looking at right here is that there are so many materials that are available on the web. There's little need, in my opinion, to use a course textbook. If I have the option to choose or not choose, I will in all likelihood not choose a textbook. At least not choose a book that encompasses everything. I may choose one that focuses on one area. I'll focus on readings because this particular book has got a lot of nice readings that I like that are appropriate to, whatever the objective is. I might pick a writing book, or I might pick a vocab book if people are really pushing vocabulary. But I won't pick one that covers all the areas. All right, course books. And here's some reasons why. Course books remove the opportunity and the requirement to select and sequence the content and the items. So it's a distraction, if you will, because the book is already set up with a curriculum in mind. It's already set up with a scope and sequence in mind. But of course, that's not the one that I may want to use. If you've had a good teacher, you'll notice sometimes they don't go through the book in sequence. They may skip a chapter. They may do chapter 6 before they do chapter 2 because they're trying to align the book with their scope and sequence, with their curriculum. That would be better. Okay, teachers who don't know as much or are more limited, they're told they have to use this book. They're not going to be able to sequence things the way that they want to. A course book is going to do that. A course book is also going to limit your opportunities for negotiation with your students. As I've said before, some of the things that I do when I begin a course is I talk with my students. What do you want to learn? What do you hope to get out of this course? What areas interest you so that I can pick and choose and try to select materials and objectives that not only help them become better language learners, but they themselves select so that they can have more ownership in the learning process. I'm limited in doing that if everything is given to me. So I personally want to give teachers the options, the opportunities. Not all teachers want it, by the way. There are some teachers, especially new teachers, who want to be told what to do, how to teach. Fine, then we want to make sure that we can provide those materials. And in those cases, those teachers may want a course book. Okay? Course book offers formatting. They offer assessment. They offer sequencing. Those are good things, provided that you want that particular format, those forms of assessment, right? That particular sequence. It's a nice thing that's set up and ready to run. Again, provided that you want it. So course books are not necessarily bad. I just like the freedom to pick and choose. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, reasons to use a course book. 1, the state requires it. Pretty much done there. The state says I have to use this book. Okay, I'm going to use the book. The teacher is inexperienced. Yeah, the teacher needs scaffolding. They need some kind of support so that they can get through the objectives, because maybe they don't understand them completely, or for whatever reason. They want it. It helps them get through the system, right? The teacher believes it's a good book. Okay, well, that's a different reason. They like the sequence, the format, the assessment. So they're going to use that, right? The learners advocate for using the book. In other words, I got students who say, I like this book. I want to use this book. It may be they want the book because the book has the vocabulary or the writing skills that are necessary for some state test. So they want to use the book. Okay, well, that may be another reason why they want to do that. Teachers, however, should be asking, what is the content? What are the ideas that are involved? What is the language that's involved? What is the discussion capabilities, right? How is the material presented? Is it presented in an interesting way? Does it actually engage my students, or doesn't it? Is it older? Is it less interesting? Is it out of sync? Of course, also, how is it assessed? What type of assessment protocols are involved? Years ago, I was very glad to see books that had assessment little quizzes at the end of the end of a textbook. Today, at the end of a textbook, there may be something that says, go to this website, and it's online. So they can do automatic testing type of scenario so that you can get assessment more quickly, and students can go there and practice. How is it assessed? Okay, so a teacher, when they're looking at a textbook, they should be asking those types of questions. More freedom means that the teacher has more opportunities, right? Using a course textbook, you're going to have less freedom, but you're going to have more structure. That may be good, that may be bad. That's going to be up to you. All right, adopting a course book. If a book is adopted, teachers are probably going to want to supplement what's going on there. They may want to do this because they see some good activities that are there, but they want other ones. They want to use something that they found online or something that they made. And so they want to include that, add that to what's being used. Or maybe some of the materials simply don't fit. They don't fit the age of the students. Sometimes when you're dealing with low-level students who are adults, typically what I'll say is, go get a graded reader. Well, maybe those graded readers, basal readers that the kids in grammar school had, maybe they're not going to apply to them. And they're not going to be interested in them because it's not good. I'm going to have to try to find something else because the age doesn't fit, or the proficiency doesn't fit, or I need more materials to fit the time that I have, or I don't have enough time to fit all these materials in. I mean, there may be different reasons for that as well. I don't like the content. My students are not interested in the content simply because, and it may not even be the content in the sense of, this is the history of, it may be the way that content is presented, right? Again, the big reason that I would think is this next one here is that it does not involve students in the design process. There is so much research out there that shows that when students get to choose what they're learning, they're much more engaged because they have ownership over the system. And so they want that ownership, so you want to be able to engage with them in material. And that's another reason why you're going to say, okay, I have this material, I'm going to add to it stuff that they want, stuff that they're interested in doing. Lastly, maybe the book doesn't align with your teaching philosophy. You may be more of a Crashonian, and you want to have much more input and much less attention to structure. And so you may want to do it. You may be more traditional, and you want to have more of a grammar emphasis, and your book doesn't focus on any of that. Okay, so for any number of reasons, you may want to modify the material that's there. There are a lot of good books out there, but I tend to not want to use them. There's so much information that's freely available on the web, and you can simply go that way and not use a textbook. I know book publishers don't like me because of this. I actually was at a conference once, and this was an aside comment about not needing a textbook and building my own materials, and there were 3 publishers in the audience, and 2 of them came up and spoke to me afterwards. One of them started, hired me to do an interview series with them because they wanted to stay in the game. print media is still the big thing. And so, anyway, you may want to add if you're going to be forced to use a textbook, or if you have a textbook that you really like and you want to use it, you may want to supplement. You're going to be adopting a course book, right? You're going to may want to add or omit content. You may want to rotate the sequence, again, so that it fits what you're doing. You may want to change the format or the presentation. There are times where I will take a story and make it a close. So I'll take a story out of a book, I'll rewrite it, make it a close, print it out, give it to my students, and they're trying now to figure out what these missing words are, and it's a different format than what was normally done, right? So you may want to change the format. You may want to change that presentation. You're not really changing a lot in that sense, but there are things that you may want to change. You may want to add or omit monitoring, the ability to keep an eye on, see what students are doing as they're going through the process. You may want to add or omit assessments as you go along. You may find that this book has a whole bunch of assessments, which is probably a good thing, but it's too much for you because you don't have the time to go do that. Okay, well, you're going to start pulling some of those things out. Point being for this whole thing here is that you are the one who is in charge. You are the one who says, I'm going to add this, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to go this sequence, I'm going to switch it around, not the textbook. You are the master of the course, not the book, okay? Adopting other materials, right? Because the textbook doesn't meet the needs of the course. It doesn't meet all of the course objectives. And again, you're making a curriculum. You're going to have a list of, reading, writing, listening, speaking objectives. You're going to have a list of grammar items that you want to focus on or emphasize, or, make sure that they're included in the material. Well, the material may not have those. You're going to have a list of vocabulary that you would like to get through for, whatever lesson, right? So they may not meet those needs. You also may realize that diverse materials align more closely with your students' needs. Okay, so you may say, hey, I've got a nice book here, but my students have different needs, or my students want to approach this information differently, so I'm going to try to add more to go along with this. You may be able to allow your students to pick and choose. Again, they're going to be more motivated because they have ownership. The environment doesn't lend itself to the course book. I've been in classrooms where everybody gets a table and you can work on a table. Yay! I've been in other classrooms where everybody gets a chair and that's all they have. So working on a table is now more difficult. And if the book that you're using requires table work, that's going to be a problem. Or you're in a room that's like a computer lab and you're doing a lot of speaking activities where students have to get up and walk around and meet different people. Well, the room may not be able to do that, right? Maybe the book is not based on solid research. Just looks like a lot of fun ideas. And there's no solid background in research that you see in the book or in the individual activities that you see in the book. You want to do things that you know are going to help your students move forward and with their language learning. And that's one of the ways you do that is through picking materials that are researched to be sound and in line with the best methods for teaching. Adopting digital materials. There's a lot of useful self-help and autonomous learning sites all over the web. And I know that I have shown you some of those before, and I'm not going to go do that now, but you can just go out there and look at all the different ones that are out there. There are great benefits for teaching things like writing online or teaching vocabulary online. Great sites for listening. Whole bunch of authentic content that's sitting out there on the web. I mean, you look at things like YouTube or GodTube or TeacherTube, and it's real materials for native speakers. A lot of them are short, so you can go out there and use those short materials. Again, you may have to do some work in preparing those materials for your students, but it's real English. It's not something made up or contrived for your English classroom, right? So it's also a possible great tool for native speaker interaction. This runs over to this whole idea of speaking. You've got tools like Skype or Google Hangout or there are a couple others that are out there. You can just use and be able to talk with people who live far away and be able to talk with native speakers. A great opportunity. All those are digital tools, not part of a standard textbook, right? Now, I say there's a whole bunch of great digital tools. I tell you, hey, there's no need for me to use a textbook, But this is really too. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of good materials and a lot of good textbooks, and if you have them and you're going to be using them, great. Take advantage of them. In anything that you have, in any materials that you have, you still can use them to your advantage. The old adage, when the world gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? Or lemon drops or lemon drop pie or whatever it is. You take advantage of the materials that you have and use those to further your students' abilities. Let's look at evaluating a course book. Does it, again, things that you want to look for. And a good course book is going to have a lot of this information at the front or in the back, right? Does it meet the language and contents requirements? So some very good textbooks that in the beginning of the, in the table of contents, it's also going to list scope and sequence. It's going to show you the materials that it's going to be covering. It's going to show you the grammar, the speaking, the writing, elements. It's going to have a glossary in the back. It may have glossaries in between, so that you can look and see, does this book meet the needs of the curricular guide, or doesn't it? Right? Is the book inexpensive or manageable? I've worked at a variety of places. Some places the school provided it. So other places, students had to go out and buy their own materials. So one reason why I don't like using textbooks is because I don't want to have a huge burden for students to go out and purchase them. If your school is buying them, well, that's a different issue. Actually, that's not even a different issue. The school may not have a lot of money to do that. But I mean, can you buy it? Is it buyable? If it's too expensive, then maybe that's going to be one thing you're going to push away from it. Does the format and presentation attract learners? Are they going to be interested when they see this? Are they going to say, yeah, this is something I'm going to enjoy doing? I once was talking with a guy who either was one of the designers or he used very much the series Side by Side. It's a nice little series. It actually covers a lot of material, and it's very attractive to some students. It didn't look official. It didn't look professional. It was much more playful, but it was also very sound in terms of how they were trying to present information, especially orally. And they were trying to go through a scope and sequence in their series. But the format was in such a way that some people were not interested in it because it didn't look professional. So, is the book completable? Can I get through the whole book by the end of the quarter or the level or the multiple levels, right? Or are you going to have a book where you're not going to be using a lot of the materials, right? Can you actually do the materials? In the book itself, is there a balance between the 4 strands? Right? Are you going to be able to work with fluency? Are you going to be able to work us on focusing on some of the more discrete items? Right? Are you going to have a focus on all those elements? Are you going to be able to do that? Is it well developed? Does it have supports like, reading helps, or does it have a glossary or little snapshots at the beginning to say, hey, this is what we're going to cover in this whole section? The more of those helps that are on the side, the better the textbook it's going to be. Again, those are newer type of things that are in textbooks, that are in good textbooks. But you as a teacher want to evaluate, is this going to be valuable enough? Am I going to be able to get through it? Does it meet the needs of my students? Does it cover the curricular guidelines that are set up in the curriculum? That's all I have for today. I do thank you very much for stopping by. If you have any questions, you can certainly see me. Send me a text down below or shoot me an email. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.